Hi guys, this is Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge and Bandit too. Say hi everybody. Hello everybody. Today we're taking a look at a knife that I've had for a few weeks. Actually, I've had it for 2 months. Just waiting for the right time to share it with you guys. This is another knife by Y-Start. This one has no label on it though, anywhere on the knife itself. This is the T03 EDC size. I got a large size hand and it just fills up this handle. I can just get the 4-finger grip on it. D2 steel, G10, the T03 by Y-Start. It's a really nice little EDC blade. If you're interested at all in a knife like this, it comes in 3 colors, not just orange. Stick around because we're going to take a good look at this knife today. I've been liking Y-Start knives ever since I first got my really nice Y-Start. Actually, I think it was my actual first Y-Start was the JIN01. It's a knife that is currently in stock again at GearBest. And I do have to say something, guys. I'm hearing your complaints about GearBest. I understand them. It doesn't make any sense to me why sometimes shipping doesn't work for you guys. I don't understand it. You know, they're not going to explain it to me. I'm just an associate with them, meaning, you know, I get a commission if I refer people to buy stuff from them. But that doesn't mean I'm really in the know at all about their company. You know, it's a large company. You know, they've got hundreds of employees and stuff. It's not just a little fly-by-night shop. And for some reason, they've been having shipping issues. But I've bought knives 2 out of the last 5 days, and both times I had, you know, my normal options to buy knives. I'm willing to hear your complaints about it, but I really can't do anything about it. So just to let you know that. This knife, though, comes from DHGate. And I'll put a link in the description below on how you can get it yourself. Let's start off with the blade. D2 steel. And that's what they claim that it is. I believe that it is. It feels like my other D2 steel in terms of, you know, D2 steel is a little more challenging to sharpen than some of the other steels that are like budget steels, like 440C, 8CR13, 8CR14, 9CR18. You know, those tend to be a little bit easier to sharpen. I like the Sandvik steels as well. D2 tends to be a little bit more challenging. It's not super hard to sharpen, not by any stretch. There's some super steels that are way harder to sharpen than even D2, but it feels like D2 is what I'm trying to say. I like to call this a full flat grind, even though technically you could have an argument saying it's a saber grind because it goes full flat up to about here, and then back here there's just a little bit of a flat spot on the end of the blade. I view knives in a very unique kind of, well, maybe not that unique of a way. But I view them not only as tools, but as art. And as art, you can label them the way you want to label them, you know, because it's a little bit different and it's a little bit unique, it's a little bit special. Whereas a tool, you have to be very specific that it is this and it is that, and this is what it is. Everything's black and white when you're talking about tools because they need to be to the specs. But in art, you know, it's a little bit more about the beauty and the elegance and, you know, all that stuff about the knives. And effectively, this really is a full flat grind. But technically, it's not. So I'm probably going to call it a full flat grind. I don't mean to take up too much time on that. That's what I'm calling it. D2 steel, nice edge, shallow belly, nice long flat area here. It's not technically flat though either. It's got a very, very slight recurve. Right where my fingernail is touching it, it's slightly deeper in there than it is right at the end of the blade and at the middle of the blade. So, but I wouldn't call this a recurve either because it's so very slight. It won't even make a difference when you go to sharpen it. You've got a nice sort of oblong kind of hole there to open the blade up with your thumb. It's very well chamfered on the edges there, so it's very comfortable. The spine of the blade is also chamfered so that when you're holding it with your thumb like this, it's not sharp at all. Feels really good in the hand. And then you've got your steel liners, G10, open pillar construction, some nice hourglass shaped pillars there. Liners are not skeletonized to save any weight or anything. And You know, it's just a really well-made, just like you expect from Y-Start. It's a well-made knife that looks good, feels good, and it just is a really good knife. I like this sort of cove instead of chamfering that's all the way around the blade. Sorry, all the way around the handle. It doesn't really create hot spots, and it kind of actually does add a little bit of grip to it. Feels really good in the hand. There's no sneak up choil or anything. Locks up solid. It's got bearings in there. I'll open it up and show that to you. At least I believe they're bearings. I haven't even opened this knife up yet. My thumb has a tough time reaching in because the knife is fairly shallow. It's got a tough time reaching into that hole and opening it. It's really easy if I just do it slowly like that, but to flick it open is a little more challenging, and I've never learned to use that spidey flick from underneath or anything. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. I'm not all that enamored with the idea of being able to open a knife super quickly. I can open it up quick enough. It's usable. You know, it's going to be there for me, and I'll be able to handle it and have it ready. You know, it is what it is. It uses this sort of slot flat, better known technically as standard screwdriver head, which is just a slot through there, but it doesn't go 100% through. It just goes like 90% through the head of that screw. So you got your two screws for your pillars here, and then your pivot, and then your stop pin is just placed inside there. The G10 has some jimping on the outside edges there, and that's the extent of the jimping on this knife, nothing else around. Technically that's maybe not really jimping, and it doesn't really help you on the top. It just helps you if you gripped it on the side for some reason. It's more decorative than anything else. Let's talk about the specs on this knife. This D2 steel comes in at a Rockwell hardness of 59. And let's talk about the length of all the different parts of this knife. The blade, if measured from the end of the handle right here at the top, the most shortest point from the handle to the tip of the blade, is 7.5 centimeters, 2.98 inches. So yay, this knife is below the 3-inch law. Well, your cutting edge, though, is 8.3 centimeters, which is 3.29 inches. So maybe you're not as safe as you thought, depending on how Officer John measures your knife, right? So you got to be careful there. The thickness of the blade here is 3.25 millimeters, which is 0.13 inches. Online, you're going to find that it says it's 3 millimeters thick. Well, I've got accurate vernier calipers, and it says 3¼ inches. The blade width, I call it the depth usually. That's the spine to the belly, that depth, that distance. 2.1 centimeters at the widest point, that's right here close to the pivot, which is 0.85 inches, and then it slowly gets smaller until it disappears. The handle length is 10.6 centimeters, which is 4.18 inches. And I forgot to measure the thickness, but I'll put it on the screen right now. The thickness of the handle, I think it's right around 1/2 inch, but you'll read it across the bottom of the screen here. And the entire length of the knife is 18.1 centimeters, which is 7.13 inches. And then the weight of this knife, even though the handle's not skeletonized, is 91 grams, which is 3.2 ounces. Not very heavy at all. And you've got your pocket clip on the right side only. It's a tip-up pocket clip, but you've got almost 1 inch of knife sticking out of your pocket because this pocket clip is so far away from the end of the handle. That's a little over 2 centimeters. It does want to have the knife move on an angle in your pocket because it's the clip is just angled that way, the way it's folded and bent here. The clip actually works very effectively in your pocket. It holds the knife quite well. It doesn't overhold it, meaning it's not super hard to pull the knife out of your pocket, but it doesn't come loose and fall out either. Well, it's a good job for that. The lanyard hole is plenty large enough for 550 paracord, no problem there. And then, as I mentioned before, everything on here is just finely beveled. Even the liners on this inside edge is beveled. Everything looks really nice. It's polished, and just they did a really good job on the fit and finish of this knife. Typical Y-Start fit and finish. It's one of those things that leads me to say, yes, this is a genuine Y-Start knife. It just, everything about it screams out, this is a Y-Start. Right at the front here, you've got the end coming down nice and bit, so it creates a nice bit. So it creates a bit of a safety choil there, so when you're holding it and you've got this in your hand, if you run into something and the blade stops in a hurry, a very low chance that your hand's going to come over and get over onto the cutting edge. It's just too well designed. And then they've got at the end here a nice little extra bit of a choil like that for your pinky to sit in, just to give that extra last little bit of security in your hand. Cuts really well because it's a full flat grind. Oh, I didn't give you the measure of the thickness of the blade behind the grind, and I didn't write it on my paper either. So that'll show up on the bottom of the screen right now. Behind the grind right here, it's a very EDC kind of thickness. To me, I think it's probably 0.7 of a millimeter thick right there. That's just a guess. We'll see what the actual vernier calipers are going to say right on the bottom of the screen right here. Looks good, feels good. Let's check out how well this guy cuts. Like I say on all my videos, how it works at the cut test doesn't say hardly anything at all, because I've EDC'd it for a while, I've used it a lot, and even if it didn't come super sharp from the factory, if you're a knife enthusiast, you need to know how to sharpen your knives and maintain them. What's more important is the steel, and I do believe this is D2 steel, and it's going to last quite a while for you. It didn't come super sharp, and it's done some pretty good work as far as lasting for me. I did an awful lot of testing with it. Let's see if even at this point it can still cut paracord. I have a feeling that it's not going to have a problem cutting paracord. There we go. Cut that without an issue. And, cuts with the slicing motion, not a problem. It's, I show you all the time that 7-stranded paracord. And if we use the tip of the knife to cut, see, that works, no problem. And let's try to cut through this way. Whoops, I didn't have a good hold of it. There we go. Now I got a better hold of the thing, and let's see how well it cuts that way. Oh, zip through that, no problem. This is a USB cable here. And, zip through that, no problem. And thank you so much for watching and commenting and sharing and liking. And remember, always cut towards your chum and not your bleeding thumb. Well, it shouldn't be a bleeding thumb because you didn't cut towards it, right? Right? Careful now. Oh, this is a wart treatment. I've had to get 7 treatments on it already. I've had this wart for 30 years, and it's time to get rid of it. And so I probably have 2 more treatments on it before it's gone. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.